U.S. House could pass a bill that could ban TikTok nationwide. Now, of course, that's quite problematic. A lot of people immediately were like, well, what the I like my TikTok. Why are you taking my treat away? Please don't take my treat away. And as of now, the House has passed it. Now, will it actually pass? Did it pass in the Senate already? I don't think it'll pass in the Senate. Now, I think this is ridiculous. Why is this the priority for legislation? Because we are lazy, corrupt pieces of shit in the American Congress. Biden gave the green light by saying he'd sign it. Yes, Lowell overruled. I personally think it is disgusting. I think it's gross. Are there problems with TikTok? Yes. Are these the same exact problems that persist in every other social media platform? Absolutely. The fact that they are trying to get the Chinese government, the Chacom divestment from TikTok, ByteDance, from divesting in TikTok, is specifically because the American government is trying to bully an international company into selling this incredibly successful product that 170 million Americans use. It's unimaginable. It is ridiculous. It's gross. It's peak state capitalism. And it's the worst kind of peak state capitalism. They're talking about it as though, oh my God, TikTok is a surveillance thing. Okay, I've talked about this a million times over. Obviously, all of the concerns that people have for TikTok exists across the board. This is just pure extortion, and it's also pure control. They do not like that TikTok's lack of regulation or its own regulatory interests are different than the social media platforms that are controlled by the American government in some ways, whether it be Twitter, whether it be Facebook, it does not matter, whether it be Google. These are all companies that have backdoors with the intelligence community. These are all companies that will inevitably not allow certain kinds of commentary to exist, or at least cast it aside. They can be bullied by the right-wing Republicans in general. TikTok, on the other hand, does not really have those same considerations because it's not an American company. It's not owned by an American. I think for two different reasons, Congress is desperate for pushing the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications app. Reason number one, interest rates go up, money is no longer free, the Silicon Valley social media and also Silicon Valley is bursting. Mass layoffs. There's obviously a company that is not beholden to those same financial troubles and financial struggles. That company is a Chinese company, ByteDance, that owns TikTok. TikTok is popping off. Capital owners salivate at the prospect of being able to purchase this by strong-arming the company, by utilizing the state. This is the most anti-capitalist thing you can do. It's the most like anti-competition, anti-capitalist thing you can ever do. This is pure nationalist interest, pure capitalist nationalist interest in the sense that this is capitalism in practice and not capitalism in theory. We will never get like real expropriation in this country for a company like Boeing, for example, which is floated and kept alive by so many subsidies. But God forbid there's another company out there that is like competing with Facebook. Oh no, we don't want that. We hate Facebook. As you know, I'm talking we as in like Congress. Congress always talks about how much they hate Facebook, but then they'll go and work at the behest of Facebook. Yeah, it is ridiculous to try and force ByteDance to divest from their own successful product. It is insane. What an insane thing that we are trying to do here. It blows my mind. It's incredibly hypocritical. It sucks. There's also the other side of this, because a bill like this can only get a lot of play if there are real valid concerns. Are there real valid concerns with respect to data privacy? Absolutely. Those concerns are not on TikTok alone. Those concerns exist for every social media company and everything that you do online, as a matter of fact, because in the United States of America, we have data brokers that literally are constantly sucking all of your data and spitting it back out and selling it to people. That is unacceptable. Regulate it. That's not about regulating TikTok, however. That's about regulating all the social media. That would be what a responsible government would do. Of course, we are not a responsible government. We are an irresponsible government filled to the brim with corrupt babies. Another problem. TikTok has a massive influence in the minds of Americans. I've often talked about how a Chinese company has a Chinese version of TikTok. It's called Douyin. You will never see on Douyin the that bangs on TikTok. The Chinese government heavily regulates what kind of content people see. Okay, it is as close to a walled garden as you can get. The Chinese firewall. Obviously, this doesn't mean that they are banning everything and anything. They do make sure, especially for younger audiences, like they make sure to tailor the content very specifically to the interest that will focus on Chinese prosperity, museum TikToks, rather than, TikToks of how ice giants are alive or that public defender guy Lol overruled. It's like no one should watch him. Not just children, not adults. No one should be watching his TikToks because he's fake. That's another part. So is there something that the government could do, potentially regulate the things that people are seeing on TikTok? That has a lot of First Amendment issues. I don't know how the perfect way to do that would look like. Companies should implement their terms of services that they claim they care about, hate speech laws and whatnot. Now, having said that, that is a real problem for Americans. Okay, that's a real problem for the American government. Let's be real. Elon Musk owns Twitter. At the end of the day, the American government can clamp down on Elon. They can say no more government contracts if you don't get your shit together. They don't, because Elon is right wing, and that is not disruptive to the forces, to the powers that be. That is not disruptive to the current oppressive structural hierarchies that we exist under. No matter how Nazi Elon goes, the American government's not gonna, go, hey man, maybe you regulate your platform a little bit. He is not offensive to the powers that be because he is the powers that be. I guess. Is that the right way to say it? He is the powerful figure. He is a billionaire. Having said that, TikTok on its own is very genuinely, legitimately disruptive for many. The leaked audio of the Apartheid Defense League, Chief Executive Jonathan Greenblatt freaking out. This was like on October 9th or something too. It was like October 10th. I don't remember. It was right after October 7th. Here he is, Chief Executive of the Apartheid Defense League, Jonathan Greenblatt, freaking out because global youth aren't listening to Israel and what Israel has to say about its own apartheid.
But I also want to point out that we have a major generational problem. All the polling I've seen, ADL's polling, ICC's polling, independent polling, suggests this is not a left-right gap, folks. The issue in the United States of support for Israel is not left and right. It is young and old. And the numbers of young people who think that Hamas's, massacre was justified is shockingly and terrifyingly high. And so we really have a TikTok problem, a Gen Z.
Do I think this bill is Apex doing? No, because the interest in trying to sell TikTok to an American came far before Jonathan Greenblatt started chirping about how teens on TikTok are pro-Hamas.
Our community needs to put the same brains that gave us Taglit.
This just gives additional interest. This is just a little bit of extra on the side. It ain't gonna hurt nobody. It makes people a little bit even more excited, more enthusiastic to go along with this kind of thing.
The same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations need to put our energy toward this, fast. Because again, we've been chasing this left-right divide. It's the wrong game. The real game is the next generation, and the Hamas and their accomplices, the useful idiots in the West, are falling in line in ways that are terrifying. Last thing I'll just say, we saw a dramatic change in the language of the activists here in America on October the 8th. The language of groups that we've long tracked who've long been problematic.
Why are you tracking pro-Palestinian groups and activists? So strange. The Apartheid Defense League did not change its ways since the 90s when they got busted for directly doing the exact same thing, this time defending the other apartheid state at the time, South Africa.
Palestine and Jewish Voices for Peace, they flipped like this and went to Iranian propaganda. The language I could show you from their toolkits, because our analysts are in their groups. We saw this again.
They have literal spies in the activist groups, and he calls them analysts, and they're like, wow, this is Iranian propaganda. Listen, big dog, nobody is over here being like the Iranian state is correct for its domestic affairs and that we must restore the caliphate or something, and also only the Shia version. Literally, there's only one true Islam, and that is the Shia Islam. The governments must be run by direct descendants of the Prophet Muhammad, or peace be upon him or whatever. Like, that's not what's going on. You can't say something is Iranian propaganda when it's objectively true unless you're trying to defend Iran. This is the problem that many people who defend Israel do not understand. Many people who defend Israel kept literally talking about, like, this is Hamas, Hamas is terrorist, Hamas, not realizing that what that ended up doing for many people was negatively polarize them, because they were inevitably going to be like, yeah, I don't think I want to be on the side of the people killed 30,000 people, almost 45,000 people. So whoever the other side is, I'm with those guys, the guys that are getting blown up. Oh, are they Hamas? Okay, maybe they're not so bad. That's what they did. No matter what, there are objectively right and wrong things that people are doing. October 7, a lot of atrocities occurred in the hands of the Palestinian resistance groups, 100%. But we're not in October 7. It is now March 13th. When you kill 70% plus women and children over the span of 5 months, you can't keep talking about Hamas. People are going to be like, okay, well, the Hamas guys are maybe right. Since October 8, Hamas posture has been a defensive one against Israel's ethnic cleansing campaign. Many platforms in previous years would never even allow this kind of thing, would never even allow this kind of conversation to occur. So I think that, like, this is a legitimate issue for people who want to control TikTok. They want to turn it into Instagram. They want to turn it into Facebook. Meta literally openly bans you or suppresses you for being pro-Palestine. And this is not like a right-wing grievance. This is not the type of grievance that, you know, right-wingers bring up all the time and they're like, oh, why are my grandchildren not calling me? This must be because of the evil liberal social media platforms. They're doing this actually. Like, no, they just straight up ban you. They openly ban you and you can't do anything about it. Like, what the are you going to say, bitch? Shut the up. We're goddamn Facebook. They openly do it, for the record. Here is Human Rights Watch. Meta's broken promises. Systemic censorship of Palestine content on Instagram and Facebook. That's the Human Rights Watch, dog. This is not like, we're not making it up. And that's precisely what is very frustrating about TikTok, because they do not have that same stress points, as they are not beholden to the American State Department interests. They do not have the same interests. They want to control all of the narrative, and they recognize that the most successful social media platform as it stands is one that is uncontrollable. This attempt at regulating the internet is very different than all previous attempts. All the other ones failed, I think in part because practically they would have been unenforceable, but since the internet has consolidated into less and less platforms, unfortunately significantly easier to censor, I'm worried we're watching the slow death of the free internet. The same thing happened in the US paper press in the 1940s. This is a censorship bill, 100%. One thing that a lot people in the Western world don't recognize is that civil liberties are very important and kind of keep this going, because if you don't do civil liberties, you have to do other stuff. You have to actually, like, improve people's economic circumstances, and we're not building any high-speed rail. The dam will break. You either have to build the high-speed rail and, like, genuinely show to the people that, like, there is prosperity to be had, that the government does have your best interest at heart, which is what they do in China, but then they suppress your civil liberties. So people are like, okay, well, I mean, sure, at least the situation seems good. There is like a collective consciousness surrounding genuine improvement into people's material conditions. Now, of course, as time goes by and that worsens, and the future prospects of the younger generation in China worsens, you will also see people demanding more civil liberties, for the record. But in America, we ain't got any of that. Why? Because we got $5 jalapeno poppers and we got unlimited, unrestricted access to pornographic material online. We got just slop, okay? We got the bread and we got the circuses. Now, if you take away the circus, well, Rome's gonna earn. And I don't think these guys understand that. Or maybe they think they can continue, you know, limiting and making you feel like you have this choice in what you are watching and what you are consuming, while simultaneously consolidating it and making it worse and worse. If the EU is not implementing the same policies and the US government doesn't really care about the false info and radicalization on TikTok, it's just about capitalism and the fact that they can't control it. The EU has much stricter rules on these things. Yes, I think it's both, though. The reason why I think the United States cares about it from a material perspective is because they're selfish and they want to definitely give this gift wrapped, phenomenally successful social media platform to an American enterprise, right? That's right, baby. We'll claw it away from your hands. That's what they're trying to do, which is, by the way, impossible. It is so dumb. It is such a dumbass bill. It blows my mind. Here's how it starts. To protect the national security of the United States from the threat posed by foreign adversary-controlled applications such as TikTok and any other application or service developed or provided by ByteDance or an entity under control of ByteDance Limited. Their goal is to protect the national security of the United States. Is sold from the same militant framework, bro. This is a social media application. You are not doing this to protect national security interests. You are doing this legitimately, first and foremost, because you want to sell it to an American, or at least like someone who is an ally. You want to give it to a person that is on the nice boy list. Obviously, it's also beneficial because when you sell it to someone on the nice list, let's say like Elon Musk or whatever the right? Not him, obviously. I think he's against this bill for understandable reasons because he himself also has a lot of foreign nations that have invested Saudi Arabia into Twitter. That might be a little bit tricky for him personally if this were to push. So I think he has his own personal interest in making sure that this doesn't happen. My reactionary take is that TikTok should be banned. I understand it's for the wrong reason, but the TikTok algorithm is a fucking scourge on the brains of our citizens. Right move for the wrong reasons. Also, I don't use TikTok and I still get plenty pro-Palestine content. I think that angle is overblown. I just showed you a Human Rights Watch article from December openly criticizing Facebook for literally systematically censoring Palestinian content. They absolutely want to be able to control TikTok in a similar fashion. Like the national security angle is bullshit. The problems that we are talking about with respect to algorithms, with respect to data privacy, with respect to surveillance, all of those problems persist in every single social media platform. We have the American government, if they were responsible, if they truly cared about these issues, they wouldn't try to divest, they wouldn't try to forcibly divest, they would try to regulate social media platforms that enter the American marketplace. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that because this has nothing to do with that at all. This, first and foremost, is about making money for a sector that has a lot of money and a lot of lobbying that's currently blowing up a little bit. In the simplest, most reductive terms, they don't like that the Chinese app is better than the American ones. 170 million Americans use TikTok, myself included. Democracy.
The House of Representatives has overwhelmingly passed a bill that would give the Chinese owner about 6 months to divest the app's American assets or face a ban. TikTok is one of the world's most popular apps with more than 170 million users.
Do you think ByteDance would actually divest? That's insane. What are you talking about? That's like $7 gazillion. What? Divest to who? It is a ridiculous bill. It's such a ridiculous bill. Maybe back in the day when America was the top dog across the board and could like legitimately shut your access to the international market, and America can still do that to places like North Korea. But we're talking about China. Like, come on, dude. They've already entered the marketplace. Temu is another one. They keep serving the hot sausages, the slop that the fat hogs and hogalinas want in the Western world. You can't compete. They're beating us in our own game, and we're butthurt about it. We're just so mad, but we can't stop ourselves because we love eating the slop. So we can't stop it. We're like, oh, I love the slop. Please, what is going on? I can't stop this slop. I love it. I love cheap consumer commodities. I love it so much. And guess what, dude? The Dengus Gambit was correct. I'm not a Dengus myself personally, but it was correct. It was. It cooked Western labor protections and lack thereof, whatever remaining labor protections that existed. It cooked manufacturing, moved it over to China. China developed tremendously as a consequence of that. They keep doing the same keep giving the hot garbage to the audiences that want it, and they do it better than we do. Why? Because, well, they have state backing. WTO report recently, their big match that Deng stays winning. China's approach to target industries for global market domination by Chinese companies using an array of constantly evolving non-market policies and practices is the funniest cope. America recognizing that, yes, if you do put the full-throated support of the goddamn government or a massive economy like the Chinese one now, then all of a sudden you can't compete. You can't compete. We saw this a couple months back when the EU openly was talking about like how Chinese electric vehicles are flooding the European markets and cooking European competition. Republican admitted it on the House floor earlier.
Only impacted sites are those associated with foreign adversary apps, such as TikTok.com. It can never be used to penalize individuals. The text explicitly prohibits that, and it cannot be used to censor speech. It takes no position at all on the content of speech, only foreign adversary control. Foreign adversary control of what is becoming the dominant news platform for Americans under.
You can't do it. You can't do it. Too late. It's too late. It's too late. Shut the up. Ultimately, people like it. And if the American project only works because we have our treats, then you can't take the treat away. You can't take the treat away and make it worse, especially after you have radicalized entire generations against government intervention and corporations in perpetuity. This is the Ron DeSantis moment. Ron DeSantis put the cart before the horse. He went crazy. He was like, oh yeah, I love the woke stuff, the culture war stuff. We got to do that all the way until he actually started using government intervention to attack a massive corporation, Disney. And the moment that he did that, everyone was like, whoa, what the are you doing? Chill. Now, Disney is an American corporation, so it's a little bit different. But the reception on moves like this from the broader American electorate is going to be very angry. It's not all that different from the hogs that were like, I need to go to Applebee's during the COVID shutdowns that never even happened. People love their treats. We don't have anything if we don't have our treats.
This is not an attempt to ban TikTok. It's an attempt to make TikTok better. Tic-tac-toe, a winner.
Bro, even she was like, nah. Bro, these people are insane. Me in debate class when I have no idea about the subject. Harry Sasson popping off on defending TikTok. I attended briefings, unclassified and classified, about TikTok. I reviewed articles, watched hearing videos about TikTok. Unless new information is presented to me, my position is as follows. I will vote no on any attempts to ban TikTok from Americans who choose to use it. Gallagher also falsely states that the bill cannot penalize individuals, as though blocking millions of Americans from their preferred social media platform is not a penalty, and denies that the ban would censor speech, even though it would explicitly prevent Americans expressing speech over TikTok. Yeah, I mean, they're giving the game away pretty openly, I think.
TikTok has really lobbied hard for this not to happen. It's mobilized its 170 million US users to really ring up their local representatives, telling them not to do this. And despite that, this has still gone through the House. TikTok
gonna learn the hard way that 170 million people can be against something, and that's not gonna change. What they should be doing instead is greasing the monkeys in Congress, okay? That's what you gotta do. Let's be real. Let's be for real, okay? There is no democracy in this country. We've never had a democratic process. I was listening into news reports, okay, talking about how like they've gotten a massive amount of calls every single day since this bill was supposed to pass, okay? TikTok is a plague to society. I would be elated if it gets banned. I don't know. I don't get your point, to be honest. Everything that you're angry about TikTok exists in every single social media platform to the same degree. In many instances, TikTok's algorithm is just cranked up. It's on steroids, okay? The issue here is not about like actual regulatory control over what you see or ensuring that we're not like radicalizing citizens or making them dumber. If that was the case, this would be a totally different bill that would still run into some constitutional issues, obviously, because of restricting free speech. The flat earthers are mad. Flat earth is one of the biggest topics on TikTok. Now you know the real reason they want it banned. See, when you show me stuff like this, I'm like, yeah, maybe they should ban it, okay? So don't show me stuff like this. TikTok is in the treat category. And because it's in the treat category, one of those things that if you take away, it's bipartisan. Like the anger and the resentment that will flow is actually bipartisan. It's like Applebee's, but even more bipartisan than Applebee's and jalapeno poppers. Speaking of Tic Tacs, we're going to have a TikToker on the stream now. So, all right. Let's talk about it. TikTok, Chinese PSYOP. Okay, if you are on TikTok and successful, relatively successful, you are a Chinese communist spy.
Absolutely.
What do you have to say to that? You said you were very mad.
I am. Well, I mean, I think the main reason that I'm upset, besides the fact that this is a direct attack on me personally, and that's why Congress is doing this, because they have a grudge against me personally, is because they're not passing any kind of comprehensive data privacy legislation. Like, they act like they care about data privacy, where your data is going, all this other stuff, but like they don't give a shit about that at all. They haven't made any movement to pass any kind of comprehensive protections for users. And the one thing, or maybe not, I don't know, one thing that Europe is more conscious of than we are is their data privacy. They have more, far-reaching laws. Google is getting sued all the time over there, or getting billions of dollars in fines because they're not, correctly participating in the strict privacy regimes they have over there. And you can actually get stuff taken down, like if people are sharing I mean, the example that I'm thinking of is revenge porn, stuff like that. You can actually get stuff taken down in Europe. You can't really get anything taken down in the United States from search.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Lil Bear in my community said it best when she said, if there was a genuine concern, they would have followed suit on like EU regulation. EU currently has no restrictions on like, or EU is not pushing like a divestment from ByteDance for TikTok at all.
No.
There are real concerns with TikTok, but those concerns exist for every single social media platform, as I talked about earlier, whether it be the algorithms and how they are like making people dumber in some ways. I agree. Or, pushing them in the throes of radicalization. We saw a version of this with like the Andrew Tate phenomenon, obviously on TikTok, as well as all of the other social media platforms, that we do not have a standard of like making sure that social media platforms actually abide by the same terms of service agreements that they put forward. And any kind of restriction in that front would be a serious violation of the First Amendment rights as well, I think, or like free harbor, which is something that I do agree with ultimately. But that is not this bill. This bill doesn't do any of that. This bill also does not protect data privacy, like you mentioned. It's simply being sold as protecting Americans from foreign adversary-controlled applications in a way to try and pry away a successful social media application and gift wrap it and hand it to like a loyal American capitalist instead.
Yeah, totally. And I think there's also concerns about, content moderation generally, because the alternatives that people have for getting news and information out, like, Instagram or using Reels, which has a similar structure to the way TikTok works, has the problem that they have consistently been silencing and censoring a lot of people talking about Gaza. And in fact, I think one of the largest pages on Instagram was banned recently.
Eyes on Palestine was banned. Human Rights Watch, literally, what you're talking about is like Human Rights Watch actually did a report on specifically banning pro-Palestinian voices and pro-Palestinian accounts or any kind of like mention of Palestine in general. And they're doing this openly. And earlier I talked about the ADL statement and the leaked audio as well from Jonathan Greenblatt. I think that there is an element of controlling the narrative and controlling the information. Here's lead sponsor of the TikTok bill, Representative Mike Gallagher, admitting the real reason that they're rushing to ban TikTok because it's becoming the dominant news platform for Americans under 30 and the U.S. government doesn't control it. I wanted to hear your perspective on this though, really quickly, because I think Nancy Pelosi, love her, hate her, does present a pretty good argument here. I wanted to hear what you had to say about this.
This is not an attempt to ban TikTok. It's an attempt to make TikTok better. Tic-tac-toe, a winner.
Fire. Is that the main argument? That's bars, actually.
Yes, you're speechless because she just owned you in the marketplace.
She's awesome. Didn't she just make
prosecutor? If this is the prosecutor and you're in court, your client is going to perma prison,
federal space prison. I would be interested to see what her most recent stock trades are in reference to any of this stuff. Wasn't there some guy who just dumped out a Boeing like the day before the investigation started? All these people are corrupt sickos. But I will say that
her meta stocks are going nutty mode.
She's a queen, and those are bars. And actually, I take back everything I said. Now I think she's right. Tic-tac-toe. It's over for me. I'm going to be out of it. I'm out of a job. I'm out of a second job.
Okay. So you're angry. I wanted to hear more of your commentary on the situation. We're going to be serious for a moment about everything that's going on, because I feel like I've covered this up and down all the way through, but I'm wondering if there's an angle that you as a TikToker, first and foremost, could bring to the table that I haven't talked about.
I think something that's interesting that hasn't been talked about too much is the fact that there are millions of people who run their small businesses, legitimate small businesses, not like drop shipping, but like legitimate small businesses through TikTok, or have been able to have success running small businesses because of TikTok. Millions of Americans who will be absolutely screwed over by this. I am not one of those people. Obviously, I would be sad to lose some income. Not that I'm getting a lot. I'm not getting that much money from TikTok, but I think that's an aspect of this. And what really scares me is that the language in this bill that they passed yesterday is very reminiscent of the Restrict Act's language, which I made a mistake earlier on Twitter. I apologize, because I thought that they had passed the Restrict Act. That was incorrect. The Restrict Act is still floating, though, and some of the language is carried over from the Restrict Act. What I'll note is that, foreign adversary as a term is a malleable term. It's not a fixed term. They can add countries to foreign adversary, and this is just a foot in the door, in my opinion, to opening up the possibilities of censorship. And people are still talking about VPNs. They're like, oh, I can use a VPN. It's no big deal. I think based on my reading of this, VPNs face civil penalties if they, provide access. Like I could see a situation where major VPN providers, if this bill is passed, will just prevent people from going to TikTok so they can avoid getting in trouble.
One thing I just mentioned is like, I come from a country that has serious restrictions on what you can access online, Turkey. VPNs work there. Obviously, Turkey recently even went so far as to ban first Kick for gambling and then also Twitch as well. Since then, it has been unbanned. But like things like this do not happen in America for one very good reason. It's not because like we value free speech or anything. I mean, I'm sure some people care about it, but ultimately it's because these are treats. And my take earlier was that like if you take the treats away, people are going to get very frustrated because the American project hinges on you being able to have unrestricted access to your treats.
I do need my treats. That is why I will say I'm extra upset because I have a broken, rotted out brain and I do need my treats. And it doesn't help that I just quit my job. And I was looking at like, damn, I brought in some money from TikTok this week. They Larry Davided me or something. This is like a Larry David situation. I feel I quit my job. I'm crushing it on TikTok. Now they're going to take it away that I'm killing it.
Yeah. They're doing this specifically for you, which is,
I really think it's
I'm
because of
pushing
me.
for it. I'm
I
pushing
know
for it.
behind the scenes, I know that you've been pushing for this.
Yeah. I am the puppet master. It's Turkish controlled media. It's not George Soros. He's a broke boy. I'm the real billionaire.
I also think it's important to consider quite genuinely, even though it might seem like an exaggeration, the impact that TikTok had as a platform over the last 4 years, during the summer of 2020, obviously in the last several months in relation to everything that's happening in Palestine, figures like Motaz and Bisan, I know Motaz was also on Instagram, but a lot of people got stories out there or were able to get themselves out there because of TikTok. I don't think that would have necessarily happened, or it would have happened very differently.
No, I think that's another motivator. I think the first and foremost major motivator here is to pry away a successful product away from a foreign adversary that we've declared a foreign adversary, even though we do so much trade with them at the behest of like an American capital owner. But then the secondary reason is so that we can control and restrict what kind of information gets presented on this application, and also create another opportunity for backdoors. Like this is a big part of obviously the mass surveillance state apparatus that we've created post 9/11, especially. A lot of these social media companies, like almost all of them, are also working with the State Department, whether it be surveilling, foreign nationals, or whether it be surveilling the American population. That presents a big national security problem for Americans, not because like China is surveilling us by way of TikTok. As we talked about earlier, data brokers exist regardless. If they want our information, they can just like go and buy it, probably cheaper than like operating an entire platform in and of itself. Is more so to ensure that we have yet another avenue for controlling all of the back end information that we can give to the government if need be, to the intelligence communities if need be.
I mean, it's also intensely hypocritical, like when we talk about the Great Wall, the firewall in China for their internet access, being concerned, or members of Congress acting very concerned about what people have access to in other countries, and then to turn around and do this. But beyond that, like you mentioned, working with intelligence agencies, there's not a lot of transparency in the way that these things are structured or data is produced in the United States with American companies. Like national security letters, they like refer to them. They have like the canaries in the coal mine. If you go on the transparency reports for companies like Twitter, Reddit, any company that has like user data that they have to provide to the government doing investigations, they can't say, oh, we got this many letters from the NSA requesting information for investigations. They have to give them brackets like we did between 0 and 1,000. Like they're not transparent in terms of the way they talk about these things. And a lot of the decisions that are made, like in FISA court or FISA, I think it's FISA, but FISA court. Okay, sorry, my bad. I'm unemployed. You know what I mean?
There's another thing I wanted to say. Oh, this also, ironically enough, another angle that I just thought about that many have not brought forward is that this eliminates like a gigantic chunk of video games, because Chinese companies also own a shit ton of video game companies, video game developers, and this bill also severely restricts that as well. Like anything that's owned by Tencent is gone. Obviously, they're not doing that because they only care about like forcibly, like I said, prying away TikTok TikTok from ByteDance and like giving it to an American capital owner as a fun little gift wrap. I mean, this opens itself up to like every Riot property, technically. Valorant has kernel level access to your computer. I guess like it's a very rigorous anti-cheat thing that they have. They have like a phenomenal amount of access, like an unprecedented amount of access. You know, this isn't even talked about in Congress because they're all 800 years old and they don't know anything about anything, and they only care about like what is right in front of their eyes that some lobbyist told them is a good idea.
When is the Chinese government gonna like invite me to come out? Is my question.
That's my question too. I wish. I wish.
Save us.
All right. Thank you, Lolo.
Have a great time.
Lolo
All right,
overruled on TikTok until they ban it.
Yeah, until they ban me. Goodbye.
All right, bye. Twitter has rotted my brain in 2 weeks. Use of infinitely more than TikTok ever did in 5 years. Lamau. Yeah, I hate this because like it's coming at the heels of me also using TikTok more and more and moving away from Twitter a little bit. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Okay, I don't like that at all, folks.
I rise today as the only member of Congress that has ever been banned by social media.
Because I'm crazy.
By the way, it was Elon Musk's purchase of X that restored my social media account on Twitter.
I think we are the dumbest country on the planet.
Many Americans and many teenagers believe awful things, and they don't just see them on TikTok. They see them on Facebook and Instagram, too. I don't think this will accomplish what the goal is to accomplish.
I hate that she's like, it's like her and Trump are on right side on this issue, being like, the real problem is Meta. They're not wrong in the energy, I guess. Technically, the exact same problems that you could point to with respect to algorithms, with respect to data privacy, exist where Facebook as well. Yeah, wrong formula, right answer. And it is so goddamn stupid.
By the way, most of the time, my posts on Facebook are shadow banned.
It's me. I'm the real victim here.